Okay.
I'm sending her a message.
So let me ask y'all a favor. If you won't do it, maybe I'll do it. But can you take a picture of yourself and post it to your Canvas account? Look, there's the
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
I will. You just go on to like the settings and do it.
And the glorious and well coiffed, it's very stylish here, Krista, Bridget with no hair at all,
You better believe it. I love it.
Tiffany, you're just a silhouette of yourself, Marquisha's here with
Yeah.
baby. Congratulations on your baby.
Thank you.
Yay!
Thanks, guys.
Welcome, Aubrey.
Aubrey's her name?
Oh,
Her name's Aubrey?
Yes, Aubrey.
A-U-B-R-E-Y?
AUBREE.
A-U-B-R-E-E?
Aubrey.
Bree.
Aubrey.
Yes, Aubrey.
Yeah.
My grandfather's name was Aubrey.
Oh wow.
You would have got an instant A, but now you're down 50 points. Sorry. Still ain't too bad. Well, let's hope Jacqueline gets in here, so I'll give her a check. Jonathan's so glad to see you all the time. Jonathan, you got a nice picture of yourself?
I can take one. I'm gonna upload one from my second grade.
Perfect.
That would be
That'd be great. All right. I'm actually recording this class, so that means you can review this. And I was thinking of a couple of important things I did say. But first of all, everybody know Tiffany? Everybody give a holler to Tiffany.
Hey, Tiff.
Hello.
Is Tiffany in my other class?
Nice to meet you again. Is your other class at 6 with this Dr.
Fowler.
Fowler?
Yep.
Yes, I am.
And you're taking the research online because you want to, because you thought it would be too early to take our progressions, or
Well,
because some people find it easier to take face-to-face, but that's up to you. But it doesn't make a difference. You get credit either way. There's no problem with it. You'll have to do more criminology stuff in the criminology one, whereas these guys will be focusing on social work on the social work one. But if you want to switch it, you need to do it pretty soon. All right, get that figured out. So
what time is that class? That class was during the day, and I couldn't take it during
it's
the day.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, I couldn't take it. That's
Okay.
why. I couldn't take it.
There you go. It's a good fit for you then.
Yeah.
So I'm having a bad hair day, so I'm wearing my hat. It's kind of coming down like that. I don't like it like that. But pretty soon it will be long enough for me to either get it behind my ears or important things I want to note to you. Number one, I said this last week. I looked you in the eye, and what did I tell you? Oh, come on, you do. What did I say last week about the modules?
Enter everyone.
Oh, just make sure you do each module.
Click next.
It's
Click,
a
click, yes.
I think that was one of the things.
And I don't put crap up there, right? Then I just try to put stuff that I think is important.
Yes.
This is not a book-based, or it's not, I did not take the textbook and just stick textbook exercises and everything generated by the textbook editor. Everything up here is pretty much stuff I've created that I think is important in this class. So it's really important for me to do modules, and as you do the modules, you run into the assignment. You know, so I was hoping to see this week that everybody did the.
Jackie's trying to join.
She's what?
There she goes.
She's pop. I think she's trying to join.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Hi, Jackie. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
No response. Driving in the car.
I can't unmute her audio.
I think it's Keisha.
Yeah.
Was
That's
that
Keisha.
Keisha's audio? Well, then her audio's on. Jackie, can you hear me? Is she driving a car?
He looks like you might have to chat her and say,
I hope not.
She got herself muted so you can't hear the car.
I
yeah,
think,
because it look like his people.
I think that's Marquisha's.
Yeah, and I see her.
I think she's just got a picture of herself to make her think that she's there. All right. So it's really important to look through every single element in each one of these things, and that's the way you're going to discover the assignments that are due. One of them is an information sheet that I want you to fill out. That's an online link. And so I'm looking for those things, and that's really simple and easy to do. And then with the discussion boards, quite often with the discussion boards, unless they're very generic, like, and tell me about your hobbies, I'm responding to almost every one.
Yes.
And your responsibility is not to read my response. Your responsibility is to read everybody's response and read my response to everybody. That's part of the teaching of this class. I really try to use discussion boards as they're meant to be. Here's the bottom line, they're not very long. It's not usually like pages and pages and pages and stuff. It's usually, especially in this class, I mean, the other class has got 19 people in it, Tallahassee. This one's pretty manageable. But I hold you responsible for that information that I put in the discussion boards. So be sure when you see a discussion board to keep checking it to read not only my response to you, don't you get alerted if I my response to you like this? Whoa, Bill said something to you.
Green light.
Okay. But also to go back and read what I've written to other people because important information is in there. Last week, we started to walk through some of this information in here. And how about me? This little piece here, I'm going to go through these really quick. Here was a greeting from me, important to listen to. And it talks about an overview of the class. Here's some information about me. This is me in a bar in Vieques, Puerto Rico. That was a fun time. Interesting piece about Vieques, Puerto Rico. Vieques has the largest bioluminescent lake in the world. And what a bioluminescent lake is, it means for some reason that the bacteria in the lake is bioluminescent, which means that on a dark night, it lights up, but it only lights up when it's stimulated. So you go out there in like a little kayaking boat, and all of a sudden you see the paddle and everything around the class. Cool. So go visit Vieques, Puerto Rico. Pardon?
It's not, I mean, it sounds unique, but it sounds like you feel very dirty.
Feels dirty? It's a little freaky. You had a couple of beers in you and you're sitting on a kayak. In fact, what happened to me and a good friend of mine, first of all, you know, we paid a guy $40 just driving a car to take a spot and we thought he was going to kill us. But beyond that, once he actually took us out to the water, I saw a really large thing swim by and I said, wow, that's like a big light show and a fish going by. I said, oh, that's a shark. So we kept our feet up on the kayak. All right, so here are the textbooks that you need for the class. Buy tap this one or rent that one. You've got this one and this one. These are both inexpensive. Okay, Jackie wins a complimentary mute. There you go.
So we won't use mine tap right now?
No.
Not yet.
In fact, I don't know how to use MindTap, so you won't ever have to use it. Once I learn how to use it, then you may have to use it. My understanding is it's a bunch of resources. So.
It is.
From it. But it comes along with the package, and your other classes will need it. Here's stuff about the honor code. Why did I say you shouldn't cheat?
Because it's the right thing.
Right, good moral person, that's right.
Cause Bill says so.
Pardon?
You're not going to get
Right, it diminishes the value of your degree and who you are. But the other side of it is that there's a lot of people around. You're at a private school. You paid big money, or you at least paid more money than you would if you went to a public school. And the reason private schools are private schools and have a higher graduation rate than public schools, they have more people here designed to make you successful. Why do we want to make you successful? Because when you have a high graduation rate, that attracts other people wanting to come here. So there's a lot of people invested in you doing well here. Not just for the graduation rate, but actually some of us feel pretty committed, and that makes us feel good about ourselves when we're actually able to teach them. So if you have a trouble with this class, if you have trouble with research, go to the office hours, spend time. Professors are paid to teach. You know, if you need help, ask for it. If you need help with writing, go to the ARC. There's lots of people here that want to help you out. So if you get to the end of the semester and you're stuck because you don't know things or you can't write things, you put yourself in a hard position. So acknowledge it early and then communicate early and often if you're having problems. And I'm the division chair. If you have any trouble with any professors or anybody here on campus, I'm the guy that come talk to you, and I'm happy to help you out. Jackie, you hearing all this? Nod your head. Yeah, we can't hear you, but just nod your head. There you
Keep talking now.
There you
You muted her.
go. I know. Here's how to get help from TU services. All right. And then here's that social work letter that I just gave you. And that talks about the expectations of the program. We talked about that last week, so I'm not going to go over that again right now. Here's the passport booklet. Did we go through the passport booklet last week?
No, we didn't go through it, but you just.
No, you handed it out to the new students.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me briefly go through that with everybody. And you want to know what's exciting? You're going to be in the midst of change.
Oh, wow.
Our social work core competencies are based off of a standard that was set in 2008, and we're going to be shifting to a 2015 competencies next year. The good news is that there's less competencies. Bad news is it's kind of a complicated matter to switch over those kinds of things, but that's our job to take care of it. So next year, your passport is going to look different, but hopefully it will be understandable and easy to use. Let's take a look at what's in here. Here's a little welcome. Here's what Thomas University wants you to be able to do well. And this is really important. This is the point of your liberal arts degree. Now you guys are going for a Bachelor of Social Work, but it's based on a liberal arts foundation. Your liberal arts foundation are those lower division classes, 60 credits. Or in the case of coming over from the regional college, you've already got a mix. You've got a mix of some upper division and lower division classes, and so you got to fill in that lower division a little bit. But the whole point of a liberal arts foundation is to stop you from narrowly looking at your profession like that's all you need to know in order to do a good job. Because a liberal arts foundation says you have to be a critical thinker and think broadly. You have to know a little bit about science, math, history, how the world functions, because you didn't get to today out of nowhere, right? So to understand how we evolved to our current understanding is really important. So Thomas University wants you to do 4 things well by the time you graduate, regardless of what major you've got. One is to communicate effectively, written, speech, presentation, etc., even online. Discover information means you just don't Google that. You try to find out where that came from and if it's true or not. Is there a lot of crap out there on the internet?
Yes.
Just Google Bill Milgren. Everything about me is a lie. You want to know the truth? Ask me.
Mm.
What would be good sources to go to get information about me? Don't ask my wife. Go right to the source.
Should be a better source.
Foster community. So this is a big deal, the discover information, and that's really what your research class is all about.
Yes.
It's for how do you figure out,
Your information.
if you're a common consumer, you try to go to well-written, well-researched sources, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, magazines that have a good reputation to them. However, you guys are going a step above that. You are becoming academics, people who are well-read in an area. And now you have access through the library and online, you have access to all of the journals where professionals who this is what their life is all about are writing about various topics. And often these are the results of people writing PhD theses. In Gen 1, we go through the progression of the progression of degrees in social work. PhD and DSW are at the top. MSW is next after this, and then before that is the Bachelor of Social Work. You guys going for a Bachelor of Social Work degree actually cut the amount of time that you'd have to get your master's in half, because you're able to apply for advanced standard. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get it, but you could apply for it, and that cuts your time for getting an MSW from 2 years down to 1 year, which saves some money, and saves some time, and saves some heartache. Meet. Thank you. Did somebody give me a whoop on that? Yeah, thank you. So your research class is all about how you take your critical thinking and discovering information to the next level. How to look at a journal article. Are there journal articles that are crap?
There's some.
Yes.
Yep, there's a lot, and a lot of them are peer reviewed. What does peer reviewed mean?
People that work in that profession have reviewed it and either agreed with the information that's in the article, or they, proven the facts of the article. It ain't always an agreement, but the facts are true.
Right. That they approved of the process by which they got the
Yes.
information they got. And there's a big controversy right now because there's a bunch of guys out there that have written articles that have been totally full of crap, that have been reviewed and got published. And then they came back later on and said, hey, listen, we made all this up. It was totally full of crap. And you guys weren't even able to notice.
Oh, wow.
So the academy, as they say, is under scrutiny, and we try to hold ourselves to the highest level of regard. And it's really important for us. And that's why when you're doing a paper, it's stupid to plagiarize, because all you got to do is learn how to cite people, and you get credit and recognition for doing that. So discovering information is very important. Fostering community, how to build relationships with people as you do things. And then critical thinking, which is to not just have a knee-jerk response to something, but to be able to thoughtfully consider what is the information, what's the problem, and then consider what are the various solutions. And somebody tell Tiffany, what is my definition of critical thinking?
Knowing why you do what you
Did you get that?
Knowing why you're doing it and why you're doing it and what you're doing.
Knowing why you're doing what you're doing.
Why you're doing what you're
It gives intention to the actions that you're taking. If you knew why you were doing what you were doing, then you would know what the goal is that you're trying to achieve in any given moment. So being able to move to that level of thinking enables you to ask really great questions. Next page is the honor code pledge, which says don't cheat. You don't cheat because there's lots of people here to help you. Here's our mission statement for social work, that we want to create good generalist social workers. Bridget, can you tell me in a clear and poignant way what a generalist is? I must have done you. Oh, there we go.
You want me to look back at my notes?
And what do you think a generalist is?
One who specializes in different areas.
One who specializes in different areas. Well, I'm going
Maybe
to twist
not.
that around and put it on its back and say it's one who has a little information about a lot of things. And that is somebody who has a big toolkit, doesn't specialize in any one kind of repair, but you're sort of like the handyman. So at the bachelor's level, you're a generalist. You're just gathering information in that regard. Our slogan here is be the change. And you'll see when you see on the back page of this, when I say be the change, I mean, you should allow this program to change who you are in order for you to become a social worker. Because this program encourages you to do things differently than you have done in the past. In the past, when people have needed help, you've given them advice or you've done things for them. This teaches a whole different strategy for it. And we go through this a lot in Gen 1, but we'll review this in just a minute. Here's the ethical principles. I ain't going to talk about that because you got ethics as a total class. Here are our core competencies. These are the things that you need to be able to do well, you need to be competent at in order to be a Bachelor of Social Work graduate. And so our goal through this junior year of classes is to teach you these things in theory so that you know about them, and then next year for you to go out and do them at your internship. All right? These 10 competencies are made up of behavioral indicators. And that means that there are behaviors that go along with each one of these competencies. So you see for this first competency, to identify as a professional social worker and conduct themselves accordingly, there's like 4 of them. That you have to advocate for client access to services, that you practice personal reflection, that will make you a professional social worker and conduct yourself accordingly, that you attend to professional roles and boundaries, that's another part of being a professional social worker. And we just had somebody who changed their placement as a senior because they had a hard time dealing with they were at hospice and they had a hard time dealing with the content of what was going on. It was triggering too much stuff for them. Things were spilling over. Whenever you got personal stuff and it spilled over while you're with a client, you're having boundary issues. Somebody reminds you of your dad. Ooh, how to be able to know that's not your dad. And as much as they remind you of it, you can't treat them like your dad and you can't assume things like your dad. Professional demeanor. So there's 41 of these things. And in Gen 1, I ask you to go through this book and make sure that you feel comfortable with all of this stuff, because if you're not comfortable with it, then you may not be a good fit for social work. So be sure to take a look through that booklet. And you got a booklet too, right? Yep, you got it right there with you. So be sure you take a look at that and make sure you know what's going on with it. At the end of this, you'll actually see what the seniors are evaluated on when they're at their field placement next year. So when you're in your field placement, you're going to be rated on a scale of 1 to 5 regarding being competent at those competencies. And where we want you at is a 3. Can you get a 2? Sure. Can you get a 1? You get a 1, that means you're not really trying. Can you get a 4? Would love it. Can you get a 5? That means you should be teaching it and you're a threat to my job. And here's our credo for social work. You be the change, make the difference, work hard and work smart, change the world one life at a time, starting with you right here, right now. So here's the important thing about this. You'll see this thematically come through. Practice 1 especially, practice 2, we're going to be encouraging with families. If you want to change others' behavior, you have to change your own. Because you'll change their reaction to you. All right? We don't have control over other people. We do have control over ourselves. This is really important because it's the foundation of the work that we're going to be doing for families. Is helping families, having parents realize when their kids are out of control, they say, hey, help me get my kids under control. We're telling them you need to change your behavior in order to help change theirs. They're just like, well, I wanted you to fix them, not fix me. Ooh, sorry about that. All right, let's fast forward. Okay, I don't want to kill this. How do I get out of here?
It's a PDF.
There we go. I'll go back here. There we go. There's the manual that I was talking with you about. If you ever want to take a look at that, that's right there. Here's some excellent resources if you want to take a look at what professional social workers, the kinds of tests they have to pass, browse through some of these things. You should be able to get through it through your student account. Here's how you access Zoom. So if you guys are ever away from class, but you want to attend class, do that. And this is stuff about the book. How's everybody doing with their books? We're okay? Getting them yet? Got them ordered?
I haven't ordered, but I've ordered mine. I just actually got some books before I left. They came. I just don't know which ones they are because they still in the box in my car. It's
Oh,
probably-
the anticipation must be killing you.
Yeah. How long did it take you? I ordered Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
Okay, here's the student information sheet. Who's done this so far?
I have.
Okay, I want everybody to get this done right away. It's right there. You should be going through these modules. So do the student information sheet. Just ask you a bunch of questions, gives me an emergency contact person, and lets me know if there's any special concerns I should be thinking about. Everybody good? Can do that? Nod your head for me, Jonathan. Yeah. You get it right away. All right. Here's a guide for critical thinking in your textbook. And I give you suggestions as to how to read your textbook because this book is a master's level textbook. If you go to Florida State University for your master's degree, that's the book they're going to be using. So it's not fun and touchy-feely. It's a lot of information, but it's an excellent textbook. It's a textbook I had when I was in school. Except in mine, it was chiseled into a stone tablet that I had to carry around. See, that's how old I am. That's funny. It's not that funny, Bridget. That's minus 50 points for you, Bridget.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the field application module. So we all know about the field obligation for next year. One of the ways that we can get you best matched is to start getting information about you right away. So at the end of this collection of information, there's the field manual, so you can take a look through it and see the kinds of expectations that go along with it. Here are the places in Georgia where we place students.
Do we have to get one of those?
You do not, but if you pick a new one, then we have to set up a relationship with them, and we have to make sure that the relationship that we set up with them meets the requirements for the program. They've got to have a MSW or BSW from a CSWE accredited school there. They have to be willing to meet the learning plan for the school. That doesn't mean you just do their casework for them. It means they have to meet the learning requirements for the job. And there's instructions here on if you want to seek out another agency. That's for Tallahassee. So if you want to contact a potential field placement, here's how you do that and what you should tell them to do. And you do not gather any more. You can't make an agreement with them. You can't say, oh, I want to do a field placement here. I'm going to work that out. what you have to do is just say, are you interested? Can I have the director of the program call you? And then Dr. Fowler will call and do a follow-up and see if they're a good match. All right, so this is the field application. And so this is this is very long. This takes maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to fill out, but it's going to be important information. It's a little bit like a resume, but not totally. But give yourself plenty of time to fill that out, but let's get that done within the next 2 weeks. All right, because that's what Dr. Fowler is going to start looking at in order to think, well, you might be a good match. Hear about it. And then she'll meet with you individually. And she'll talk with you more about this in the social welfare policy class. Okay. Okay, and this is how to put together a good resume. If you're working on a resume, it just can be very basic. But the thing that we emphasize is that when you list your experience, list what you accomplished within that, the things that you're most proud of it, things that you actually did. Just don't put, assistant manager at a shoe station. Put assistant manager at a shoe station, managed 6 employees, handled over $2 million worth of inventory, developed cataloging section, things that you accomplished so people can see, wow, I'd love to have somebody who can do that at my place.
Bill, are you critiquing the resumes that have been sent to you?
I will be. I wasn't, I put on here, don't submit them yet, but
Oh,
I'll take a look at them.
okay.
I did that in an announcement. I said, hold off on doing that until we've talked about it a little bit more, because I want to talk specifically about the STAR method at some point. So this is all about the STAR method, which is a specific way of putting information together. So this is all stuff about next year. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so here was signing up for the parent-child interaction therapy. How many people have done that?
I have.
So you finally got in, Bridget, okay?
I did get in, yes.
Okay, do you have any hints to people about how to do that?
Yes, well, it is really easy. You just follow the, follow the steps. But I will say that you did mention, don't wait until the last minute to do this. You mentioned that last week. This is a tedious process, and they're like 30 pages per, I think it's per phrase or something. And it is a lot of work.
It's like, I think she's saying 30 slides. There's not,
Yes.
yeah, there's not documents, but a lot of them have really in-depth presentations. You can't fast forward through them. You can't, and some of them have quizzes at the end of them. This is a large part. This is a hybrid class, right? Half of the work is supposed to be here, half of it's online. This is a large part of the online component. This is why I don't give you a lot of online work, because this takes a piece of it. But this is, again, a master's level training program.
What did you go about to get that?
Just click that link.
Which one?
Right here under the PCIT register. In fact, I've made it its own module.
There are 2 options that you can click on, and I did make a mistake and clicked on the first one. That's when I was emailing Bill back and forth. But you click on the second link.
There is one about, is it PTSD or it's trauma or something like that?
Right.
You want the choice of parent-child interaction therapy. Anybody want to sign in right now? Start yourself a new account?
Really?
Well, quite after 5. Let me keep going. We'll come back to it a little bit. But I want everybody to do this by next week. Get in there, get module 1 done. Can do?
Please, so.
Yes.
Jonathan, got an affirmative nodding over your head? Was that kind of, did you say?
Got it.
Oh, you got it. Oh, okay.
This is somehow I'm wrong.
Well, it's because it looks like this, and you have to click that thing there, you click that thing there, it opens up a window. There's nothing sexy inside here that makes you go, oh, I gotta do this. You gotta, anytime you see that, you gotta click it.
There's no bypassing
Maybe sexy is the
anything.
wrong word,
I
but
can't see anything. I gotta get a little closer.
I do.
okay. So now we're finally into the social work stuff to begin everything. Read all of this, take a look at this. All right, here's one of the most important videos you can watch because this gives you the foundation of the person and environment approach. You'll see me talk about the person and environment approach all throughout the semester. I can't believe I'm stuck here without a marker. I am gonna just weep. Let's go crazy. Nabbit. Why wouldn't somebody know?
One next door.
You have to go grab one next door.
Is there one next door?
It was
Yeah.
writing on the board, so I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
it's one next door.
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh.
I didn't even see it. Or I might have saw it and didn't know what it was.
Well, they took their marker, thank you now. All right, enough said. Watch this video because it teaches you about the person and environment program or perspective. Everybody got that?
Yes, sir. Do that little form, watch the video.
All right, now we're getting into the stuff that is review for our Gen 1 people. So you guys nod your head reassuringly as I say these things. And you guys have open eyes and are attentive because this is what's going to help make the foundation of what we're going to learn about this semester. All right. So, social work. You seen that video? If it was easy to help somebody else would have done it. All right? So the people we're dealing with aren't easy to help. Or they're nice people, but they've got a specific thing that they just can't change. Now, who has things in their life that they'd like to change that are willing? Thank you. Jonathan's the only perfect person in this room, so I don't expect to see the hand raised. Everybody else. So the bottom line is we can all relate to it, right? We all have habits, we all have ways of reacting, we all have issues, things that we know we could do better if only we did this, but it's hard as heck for us to do that. You're smart, your families are smart, your friends are smart. Do they want you to do that thing too?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we still don't do it.
Yes.
The only person who does it, Bridget. Is that right, Bridget?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, if you tell the truth, 1 point extra credit, that's it. Okay. So we're dealing with people who have problems that have been around often for a while, that other people have been unsuccessful in assisting, and they've been unsuccessful themselves in creating change for themselves. So we take a different way of approaching people. One thing that everybody else does is they tell them what to do. They tell them what they think is wrong. They tell them what they think the problem is. They give them advice, put them into a box and say, you're like this, so you need to do this. Sure. What we do, they should all over people. That's right. Just give them all these shoulds, right? You only did this, you only did it. What we do is take a different approach with it. And the irony in this approach is that we give up all of our expertise. Our expertise is not in telling people what to do, it's in collaborating with them and working with them in order to help them obtain a goal that they want to reach. We work smart and we work hard, but we don't fall in the pit of becoming an advice giver. Why? Because when you're an advice giver and it doesn't work, people blame you, you lose your credibility.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is have a teenager to know that. Because all teenagers want to do is jump on top of the hypocrisy. Well, you said this, and the world's like that, so screw you and you're no good. Well, we don't ever get ourselves in that spot because we don't tip our hand. And in fact, one of the things we work really hard on is trying to figure out what are the ways that we come across to people in such a way that we may think, or they may think that we're giving them advice. We try to pay attention to our facial characteristics, our body language, our voice tone, because sometimes you can say, oh, really? Or I can go, oh, really? You know, they give two different messages. And there's some people, I've had people come into this program who never give eye contact. You know, they're kind of looking up the forehead a little bit, or they're doing the up there, or they're doing this kind of eye contact. Just a little bit too close, just a little bit too intense, just a little bit too over the top.
In personal space.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. But everybody's personal space is a little bit different. Cultures are all different. And that's what's like cultural diversity, right? And cultural diversity doesn't tell you, well, because you're Chinese, I should do this. It says, pay attention. What's the information that the client's giving you? Because what we want to do is look for the response from the client that tells us we're starting to get towards our goal. All right? So instead of having this packaged routine and this expertise that says, well, here's what everybody's got to do. What we do is we meet each person where they're at. We try to gather information that gives us a big picture view of them, and then we try to work with them to make a plan that reaches their goals. To do this, a couple of rules of thumb. We don't give advice.
Why?
We're very much based on outcome. That is, we want, if you're hungry, doesn't matter how hard I try or what my intention is, if you don't get food at the end of that process, it's no help to you, correct? So we rate our effectiveness not by how hard we try, but by the outcome that we achieve. Here's one of my big lines. Help isn't help unless it's helpful. All right? Who gets to judge whether something's helpful? The client. Oh, I gave you help. You just didn't accept it. You didn't give them help in a way that they could receive it. Because one of our things about meeting people where they're at means I've got to give you information in a way that can make an impact and to help you change your behavior. So results are defined by the client and not by you. Trust the process means that once you learn the general flow of the social work process, and we go over that in practice 1, that you don't panic when somebody tells you, I was sexually assaulted as a child. You know, my uncle, when I was 6 years old, assaulted me, and it was a terrible, terrible situation. You don't start saying, well, tell me more about it, or what's going on, or what's it. You have a whole lot of information to gather. We're trying to get this person and environment perspective. Remember I drew those arrows last week, all those things? We got to collect all that data. And then at the end of that, it may be that story is important and we need to hear that from the person, have a better understanding. But maybe that's the least of their issue. Maybe that was something that taught them a strength, which was resiliency. And we build upon that resiliency because if their goal right now is to get a job, we need to help them focus on getting that outcome and deal with that in appropriate context. So trusting the process means you know the social work process and you don't mix it up. You don't start doing treatment before you gather the data. You don't gather the data before you've established the relationship. You don't establish the relationship until you told the client what your role is and what you're doing there. So social workers don't give advice. We covered that. Social workers do not personally disclose information about themselves. Well, dang, you can't talk about yourself. Who are you going to talk about? The client. When you're with them, your time and your focus is on the client. This listen, really listen, especially at your level of work, at the bachelor's level of work, doing case management with clients, you can change people's lives, but you're going to do that by shutting up. That the healing will be in the hearing. Your ability to stop yourself from talking and give somebody the chance to talk may be one of the few opportunities they've had ever to feel like somebody was totally interested in them and focus in on what their needs are. So the main therapeutic technique that we use as a bachelor's level practitioner is to listen, really listen. And that means that we're paying attention while we're listening to the impact of listening on the client. My Gen 1 people, after we've listened, really listened, what do we give the client?
Feedback, what he said.
How do we give them that
Give it
feedback?
back to him in questions. So you said this. So
Summarize.
Perfect, yep. So we're giving them feedback about what we heard. We're summarizing back to them, what you told me, I'm going to give back to you. I'm not even going to go into weird things. I just want to make sure, did I hear you properly? And the effect of being listened to can change people's lives. So read this, really good information in here. So critical thinking. So we have our social work approach. How am I going to do this? Well, I am creative, so I'm going to figure out how to do this. Hang on for 1 second. Do you guys see Word?
Word.
No.
Damn it. What happened to it? That's still there. Okay. How about now?
Nothing's there. It's just an empty page.
Okay, but you see it, okay?
Yes. Mhm.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the social work process. In your book, they're going to talk about 3 phases of social work. The 3 phases of social work. The first is exploration. The second is implementation. And the third is termination. If I was to break this down a little bit more, this would be the beginning. This would be the middle. And this would be the end. Here, we're gathering data for a treatment plan or an intervention that we're going to do with the client. Here, we're implementing the treatment plan. Here, we are terminating or ending the treatment plan. When we gather up data for a treatment plan, The way we do that is through a document called the biopsychosocial assessment. In the middle phase, we are using case management of the goals from the biopsychosocial assessment. New folks, you following me? Is this making sense, sort of? Trying to break it down. You can watch this video. I'll send you a video and you can take a picture of it. Here we are formally ending the documentation for the case. This is a lot of practice one stuff, so you don't need to have this memorized. What I would like for you right now is just to see, does it make sense? Because one of the metaphors that you'll see me use in practice one is I say, going to see a social worker should be just like seeing a doctor. Like you walk into a doctor's office, you know, what's the first thing I ask you? What's going on? Well, you already told them at the front desk, I got a broken arm. I mean, what do they ask you? You say, what's going on? Because they want to know what's your definition of the problem. Because what you might say is, my kid hit me with a bat, or maybe I fell down some stairs, or I went to a party last night. All three of those things give the doctor a different perspective. As even though they're going to treat your broken arm, it gives them context for what's going on, right? Make sense? Right? So how do we gather data for this biopsychosocial assessment so we can do it most effectively? Well, the first thing we do is we prepare and we get our head in the game. By getting our head in the game, we wonder, is there something about this client that may make me think that might distract me while they're there? So, Latinos coming in, how do you feel about Latinos? You okay with them? Not okay with them? Just be aware. You'll hear me say, I don't ever want you to think you cannot have feelings about somebody.
That's right.
What I want you to be is awake and aware of your feelings, and then be a professional enough to put them aside and get your job done. But you're always going to have feelings about stuff. You know that person that had trouble at hospice? She's got stuff going on. That's her stuff. That's okay. You're human. You're going to have stuff. Be aware of it, work with it, and you get supervision and support for it, but you don't take it out on the client. So you prepare your head, you prepare the case by getting additional information about the client, trying to get any additional information before you meet them to make sure that it's all right. And you also prepare your space to make sure that your space is welcoming and greeting for them. The metaphor I use is like you're having somebody over at your house. You know, where would you meet them? How would you treat them? What would you show them? Well, you show people, here's where the bathroom is. You know, here's where we do this. Here's where we do that. And then when you take them into your space, your living room, you want to have a place for them to sit, right? So you want to pay attention to all that stuff. The next thing you want to do is you want to build rapport. You want to start building a relationship with the client so that they feel like they're dealing with a human on the other side. So you start with small talk, and then you eventually talk about your role, about what you can and can't do, because you don't want the client under the fantasy that you can do all of this when your job is just to do that. Then we ask about the client's definition of the problem. We're trying to get, what does the client think is going on right now? Our file may demonstrate to us totally different information about that. This all sounding familiar to my Gen 1 people?
Yes.
Okay. Preaching to the choir. Fascinating for my new people?
It seems like I've seen all this before in the social work class.
Introduction to social work? we're preaching the same song around here. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, because what we want to do is from all different angles, make sure that we're giving the same story. You'll see the same competencies talked about. You'll see the same generalist concept talked about, but each class is going to have a different spin on it. All right. Then we're going to clarify some expectations. We're going to ask the client, what do they think I could do for them? If I was the perfect social worker, what would I be doing for you? Because that gives me the client's definition of what they think help is. Remember I said help isn't help unless it's helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now I'm trying to get the client to define, well, what do you consider help in this situation? And that way I can pay attention to doing those elements of it so that they feel like I'm helpful.
You rewriting the biopsychosocial?
Then we go through the process of gathering data. And here we're asking lots of questions. And we're summarizing responses to the client. So I'm asking you, well, tell me about your current home situation. Well, I live over in Thomasville in a 2-bedroom apartment with a dog named Bucky and my kids named Sam and John. And what do I say? Well, it sounds like you live in a 2-bedroom apartment with your kids Sam and John. You got a dog named Bucky. But I'm also asking you, how do you like your house? How do you like your neighbors? What do I want to know? Those stressors and strengths of your current living situation. And then I might ask you about, well, tell me a little bit about where you grew up. Listening for stressors and strengths. Tell me about your family growing up. Stressors and strengths. Tell me about elementary, middle school, and high school. Stressors and strengths. Tell me about your work history. Tell me about your medical history. Stressors and strengths. Tell me about medications you're on. You know, there you get the medications, but then you try to figure out what are the strengths and strengths of this medication. Tell me about your social functioning. Yeah. Got a boyfriend? Got a girlfriend? Got any friends? Married? Got a boyfriend? I'm just. What if you did have a boyfriend? Can I be judgmental of you?
No. We just gather data.
I'm just trying to figure out what's that going to do with your outcome. If your outcome is to help you get SNAP, what's it got to do with anything? Well, I might want to tell you, if your boyfriend's income is coming into this thing, you better find about that boyfriend's income. That may make you ineligible. You know, but it's not my job to judge. It's my job to make sure you know what, and this is the beauty of role, is my role helps me stay focused on what I need to do for you. Because anytime my mind may wander off, all I got to go is that my job?
That's right.
Clients telling you a heart-wrenching story about their kids. They're crying. Should you cry? Well, you may feel moved to tears, but I'd ask you, what's your role? If your role is to build rapport with a client and you think the client would feel like they're closer to you because of that, you might could cry. If by crying, it makes them think, oh, you got no ability to be able to help me, you can't cry. You got to do your role. So the way we gather data, we ask lots of questions about pi. What's pi?
Person
in environment.
No, you're perfect. It's that person and environment. So that's all of those strengths and stressors, from their personal life to their medical history to how they think about things to their social functioning to what they think are their strengths and their stressors to what they think is going to happen, etc. And so we summarize the clients and then we clarify to make sure we understand, did I get that right? Right? Then we collaborate for problem solving. And so in practice 1, you'll learn a specific problem solving method. Really easy, 4 steps. Anybody want to tell me what the 4 steps are? Anybody else?
The 4 steps to
Problem solving.
Problem solving?
First thing is we brainstorm all of the,
Problems.
you didn't even take the class, you 1,000 points of light, you're all right. Yep. Brainstorm all the problems. Second step, we prioritize the problems. Right? Third step, we brainstorm all the solutions for a specific problem. Fourth step, we prioritize the solutions. What are the solutions that we want to do? The ones that are easiest and the ones that are most effective. Then we're ready to put together a treatment plan. That treatment plan contains goals, what we want to accomplish, objectives, what are the things that need to be done in order to accomplish the goal. And then 3, tasks, which are specific, measurable items to be accomplished. So our treatment plan then actually, and these are date driven, that is, like accomplished by next week. Behavioral, that is what they actually are going to do by next week. And measurable, as I put there. Once you have that set up, that's your treatment plan. So then we're in the middle phase. We're now moved into the middle phase of implementation of the treatment plan. Yeah. I can try to put this as a document in the thing, but you'll be able to see it. So now we're in the second or the middle phase of the social work process. So when I say trust the process, I mean do things in this order in order to get what we're trying to achieve. New folks, does this make sense to you? Sound kind of like, and here's the thing, when you go to the doctor, this is exactly what the doctors do, right? You come in, and you say, I got a broken arm, I say, I'm a podiatrist. What do you say? See you later. Podiatrists deal with feet, don't deal with arms, right? So, but an orthopedic surgeon, or I might be a general practitioner and say, well, here's 2 aspirin. Go see an orthopedist. Orthopedist says, okay, now I can lose exercise. But they want to get the context of who you are. When you go see your general practitioner, in the beginning, they get your baseline, right? This biopsychosocial assessment, that's our baseline. Do you understand what a baseline is? The baseline is what's normal. It's our starting place. The important thing about having a baseline is if I don't have a baseline, I don't know if you're getting better or worse. Right? If I don't know.
State. Your current state.
Right. So when you go to the doctor, you say, well, I'm 140 pounds and my blood pressure is this, and you come in 6 months later and your weight's up and your blood pressure's up. The doctor's like, oh, something happened between now and then, which, unless you want it to go up, we need to figure out what's going on. So with our client, this is our baseline data. This tells us who they are right now. And then as we do our treatment plan, as we implement our treatment plan, what we're we're constantly trying to take a look at is, are things getting better? Right? Because if they're getting better, let's keep doing it. And if they're not, let's come up with some other ideas. So in order to do this case management, one of the things we engage in is a documentation process called, way to go, will it? So,
That'll get people.
1,000 points as to your credit. You keep making me feel good, you know. You don't need to. And SOAP notes represent a way of creating information about the client. All these practice one guys are going, I can't believe he's giving them all the answers already. It took us all semester to learn this stuff. But this is actually what you do when you go to see your doctor. Your doctor takes SOAP note time. The subjective piece is what you think.
Bless you.
So the doctor might say to you, tell me what's going on. I don't say, sounds like you got a cold. I say, tell me what's going on. You sneeze. I might say you sneezed 4 times. That's kind of like reflective listening, you know, summarizing what you just said. Well, it sounds like you sneezed 4 times. The objective piece is, well, since I saw you last, I gave you blood pressure medicine and suggested this diet. Did you do them? Did you take the medicine? Did you walk around the block every day? Then the assessment is, if they did do it, how'd it work? How's your blood pressure? Better? Worse? How's your weight? Better? Worse? Now, if they didn't do it, if you didn't take the medicine, what have I got to do?
And then annotate that you're not working with the program. Start over.
I have to change my intervention.
Start over.
How could I change my intervention to make sure you take the medicine?
Well, you're gonna have to talk to them and say, no, we need to do something about this, and get them to thinking about doing something for themselves.
Well, take Jonathan, who's a medic, right?
Yep.
Didn't he used to be a medic or something?
Something like that.
Something like a nurse or something?
Corbin, same thing.
Corbin? Okay.
Different name.
So I say, I know Jonathan's your next door neighbor. Jonathan, will you go over every day and watch him take his stinking medicine?
No.
And he pops it in your mouth and watches you swallow it, and then he makes you stick out your tongue. This is what they got to do in psych wards with people who cheat medicine. You know, because they think, oh, save it up.
It bothered me.
So our assessment is, does it work? If it's not working, then we got to change things. And our plan is how we change things in order to make it more effective. This should be overwhelmingly logical, even though it's different words, but for what you might normally think. But this is kind of the way we look at things. We're kind of done.
Same way you're trying to get.
And look at, we're just getting to termination. So termination is when we finally have met our goals, or a client's run out of money, or we run out of the ability to provide services. But the important piece with this is that when we terminate or end treatment, there is always a plan for how the client and follow up for more assistance. This piece is very important because we don't want to ever just leave clients hanging out there. We want to make them always feel like there's a next step that they can take. But for our new folks, I want you to know the magic in this process that happens is your ability to help teach the client the critical thinking process that you're using to help them, for them to implement that in their own life. That is, for them to gather data before they make decisions, for them to look at what are all the various problems going on, stressors and strengths, and then for them to know that there are many options that they can choose in order to do that. This is the foundation by which we're going to build our perspective at looking at families. So next week, we're going to start our actual look at families. And here's the thing I want you to pay attention to in the next module I wonder if I can do this right here. Hang on for a second.
Are you gonna add that to Canvas?
I'm gonna see if I can do that right now.
Thank you.
I added something and I called it social work process. Right here. Edit. Boom goes dynamite. Who's the man who loves you?
Oh, yeah.
It's the belly up.
That was to be 100 points extra credit for anybody who said, Bill, you are. Just didn't hear it.
Belly up. All I gotta do is scoop 'em.
Yeah, you are awesome.
Bill,
Yeah.
you know you are.
No, you know what I was saying about that affect thing? No. All right. So that's
No,
it there.
you are.
So the next piece here that we're going to be looking at is actually just starting to take a look at dimensions of family experience. And so just like in practice one, I said, whenever you meet somebody, you're going to have assumptions about it, right? You start to think things, and if we can get our biases out of the way by being aware of them, we can most accurately see them. Well, now the issue with families is, what's the original group that you compare a family to? Your own family, right? So how do you get over judging what is right and wrong by what your family experience was? Because you're most apt to have these blinders that say, well, this was good in my family, so that's what other families should do. And this was bad in my family, so therefore they shouldn't do this. When really the issue is, you gotta get those blinders off, because that's the basis by which you're judging people. You have a whole different basis to do that in social work. Now we're going from pi to phi. We have to see a group of people in their environment, understanding all of their strengths and stressors and how they interact. It's cool stuff. I can't wait for you to dive into it.
I need to meet it.
Sound good?
Bill, where did you just put that? I'm looking in Canvas.
Maybe you were asking me to publish it.
Perhaps.
Try it now.
Under modules?
Yeah, it should be in the reviewing generalist principles. Refresh your screen.
Okay. Let's see here. Process. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I affirmed her for doing something.
The time is 5:51.
Even at home, she's running the clock.
All right, Bridget's muted. Thank you. All right, thank you, guys. I'm going to leave this up for Dr. Fowler, okay?
So we just need to do the info sheet, discussion board, and the video.
You need to do everything that's in every module.
Right.
You need some very vibration.
Going on with the module.
Yeah, when you see stuff like that, but go into your calendar. You know how to use the calendar?
No, I haven't.
I'll let them
Okay, in the calendar. In the calendar, you should see something like this.
Without the due dates.
Yes, with due dates,
I didn't see that on my calendar.
for at least for my class.
Okay.
However, when do I want you to do them?
Checklist.
Right. Gotcha.
None of my stuff takes a really long time. I'm not research, you looking into your heart, into your experience. So get them done now, because that gets it out of the way. You'll get credit for it. You'll see it. You know how to look in your grade book?
Mhm.
Okay. So you'll see stuff in your grade book. you'll feel better, I'll feel better. I give you plenty of time and notice to do things, so just get my stuff done, because that makes me feel good.
So you like this?
All right, so I'm going to